Kiss are arguably one of the biggest brand bands on the planet today. They've done everything, and I mean everything. From caskets to underwear, to cruises, to pinball machines, to condoms, to nesting dolls, to sock monkeys, short of an anal douche, and I'm not talking about Gene Simmons with that one. If you can think of it, Kiss has or imminently will put their face on it. So if I were to tell you that Kiss meets The Phantom of the Park, the 1978 made-for-TV movie that's 2 parts Scooby-Doo meets 1 part Rock and Roll High School, was somehow one of the less weird things to come from the band's back catalogue of merch, you'd probably be inclined to agree. Kiss meets The Phantom of the Park, also known as Kiss, The Phantom of the Park, also known as Attack of the Phantoms, is very hard to explain. As someone who stands just outside of the Kiss army, I will acknowledge that I want to rock and roll all night, crazy, crazy nights, I Was Made for Loving You and God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too are absolute classics, but I haven't heard any of their other stuff. I'm terrifically confused by exactly who thought this film would be a good idea. And yet I'm terrifically grateful for them for going ahead with it anyway. The film follows 2 storylines. The first involves a young girl named Melissa, whose fiancé Sam is working at a local amusement park. One day they're at the park enjoying the attractions when Sam suddenly disappears. Concerned, Melissa starts a hunt for Sam, who's nowhere to be found. It's then later revealed that Sam has been converted into an animatronic slave at the hands of the theme park's animatronics expert, Abner Devereaux, with the aim to ruin Kiss's 3-night stay at the park and thus possibly end the world? I'm not kidding with that part. Towards the end of the film, they just out of nowhere imply that if Kiss don't get to perform their 3 sweet, crazy nights at the park, the apocalypse might happen. Somehow. The other main plot follows Kiss themselves, who've arrived at the park for the aforementioned 3-night stint after being contracted by the park's overseer. Both the park's overseer and the original park's founder have differing opinions about whether allowing Kiss to perform is a good idea or not. But it's finally decided that it would be in the benefit of the park's revenue to let the gigs go ahead. While performing on stage, it's revealed that Abner has his sights set on the band and that he wishes to get as much detail of their likenesses in order to construct a set of Kiss clones to replace the original band members who will do Abner's bidding and in turn make him a millionaire. And possibly the king of an apocalyptic hellscape. How would replacing the band with robot clones do that? Well, Kiss in this movie are heavily based on the band's image from the Marvel comic book series. In that sense, they operate as a band by day and as crime-fighting superheroes by night. Each member of the band has special superpowers. Most notably, that Starchild has the ability to use his eye to listen into distant conversations and as a laser weapon, and Gene Simmons has the power to breathe fire and possibly fly. It's not made all that clear. Kiss in this movie get their powers from a set of talismans. There's 1 talisman for each band member, and the closer the talismans are to the band, the stronger they are. Likewise, the further away they are, the weaker they are. And if someone else tries to touch the talismans, it can affect their powers in weird and unusual ways. Abner successfully manages to make an animatronic of Simmons, who then proceeds to beat up a load of park security staff and destroy a few stands. This puts the band in a bad light, and so they're put in a bind where they have to find out who really attacked the security staff, find out who's behind the increasing carnage, and be back in time to rock the house at large before they end up behind bars. The two plots do occasionally overlap and they tie together by the end, but I really can't emphasise just how Scooby-Doo this movie really is. It has everything. It sets up an unsuspecting bad guy as an innocent, there's some detective work, kiss fight, wolf men, robot dummies are involved. They're just one jinkies away from having a full-blown episode here. The only thing more surprising than the fact that they chose to go down this road is the fact that it works as well as it does. Admittedly, the very first shots of this film aren't a good reflection of what the rest of the film is, but they do set the tone for similar themes that will be played throughout. The cinematography is a peaks and troughs game here. When it's good, it's border revolutionary. The intro sequence is unlike anything I've seen before, and in my wildest fever dreams, if someone had said, Kiss needs a music video, you have a week and a half, go, I wouldn't have come up with the intro they settled on for this movie. It's frankly weird and wonderful and caught me completely off guard. Equally, the music video sections are very highly produced, have a good mixed range of shot types, and are frankly groundbreaking for the style they're going for. They're a real treat to watch, honestly, and with some very unique coloured lighting choices and shot placements, I'm quite happy to say they look very cool. On the flip side though, the general plot driving scenes do come across as a little bit bland. They just don't really do very much when compared to the heavily driven and stylised shot setups of the music-driven pieces. They all look a bit flat. There's a generic back and forth on cutting and not really a lot of experimentation, which was a touch disheartening when contrasted with the OTT super shots. When it's good, it's unbelievable. When it's bad, The direction is bordering on a joke. It just has to be. There's no way that anyone could look at this and not think that the person making it wanted to make Kiss look as rubbish as possible. Oh, don't get me wrong. As I mentioned, the live music sequences look great. Kiss looks awesome in those bits, and the intro sequence is so mind-bendingly weird that it wouldn't have been out of place in the mid to late 90s as a slice of self-aware counterculture. But the actual plot-driving scenes swing wildly in the opposite direction. In fact, had this been made in 2018, if they'd used the direction they'd used here, I'd have sworn it was an Adult Swim feature. Everything is kept for the most part at mid and wide shots. None of the cast are particularly overly animated, Simmons aside, and everyone looks miserable, because they are. And this film really doesn't know what to do with itself. There's a sequence in particular that will stay with me till my dying breath. It's of Kiss all sitting on high chairs, all in purplish cloaks, being made aware that they're the prime suspects in an incident at the park. It's mostly shot as a wide, it's mostly overdubbed because they couldn't be bothered to have sync sound, and it looks ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. It's great. Genuinely. This direction is one of the best examples of good bad filmmaking that I have seen in a very long time. It's so bad as to be wonderfully enjoyable. Only enhancing this wonderfully awkward direction is the actual performances themselves, which are astounding. The supporting cast are pretty bad. They're very robotic in their deliveries, they're all very stale and clunky with their delivery, and none of them are particularly animated. It's only really Kiss and a group of punks near the beginning who changed that up, really. The punks are positively PG. They hopped right out of an after-school special, and I quickly clocked onto that when a scene happened in which the punks cornered a staff member at the park, and without a word of a lie, they actually said, "Just who are you anyway, old man?" It was at that point I knew exactly how they were going to be played, and I was more or less completely invested in the film from then onwards. Kiss, by contrast, are almost clinical. In fact, at first I thought that in this film's universe, Kiss were aliens. It was literally only when I looked up the IMDb listings and saw that they were supposed to be based off the Marvel comics that I realised they were playing those iterations. But they come across as so cold and otherworldly and crap here that it's very difficult to put into words just how infinitely enjoyable they are. Seriously, Kiss alone are more than worth the price of admission on this one. Most of their lines are overdubbed. Apparently one of the band members didn't turn up to filming for the majority of the shoot due to a battle with alcoholism, which meant that they had to lead with his African American stunt double for the majority of the film, and all of the band, with the exception of Simmons, hated being there and were bordered on breaking up at the time of filming. This is a band under tremendous tension and pressure, and had this been their final flashpoint, God help us, I don't think they'd have ever lived it down. The script itself is fairly painting by numbers. There's a lot that happens in this film, but most of it is one-off scenes or little throwaway gags that don't really add to the overhanging narrative. If I had to summarise it, the broad strokes are generic and the finer details are throwaway and unfunny. But the fact that this film falls so catastrophically on its face totally endeared me to it. I fell in love with this film's crapness. It wooed me in ways many films wish they could. The dialogue is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You have 4 grown blokes in full rock attire and makeup rocking out on stage, and then we cut to them standing in a huddle talking in very calm and soft demeanours that's totally unlike anything I've ever seen before. And the lines they speak are just ludicrous. They're talking in the most basic terms and there's absolutely no character or nuance behind what's being said. It's all just the most basic of plot-driving lines, rapid-fire delivered. There's no time to get a feeling for the band, and it's only again really Simmons who in any way leaves a lasting character impression. And that's purely because he's a giant, fire-breathing, flying, robot-speaking, long-tongued weirdo who has a scene where he literally Kool-Aid guys through a wall. The band are so softly spoken and ethereal in this, it's genuinely captivating to see them. And it's only made 10 times better when you realise that none of them wanted to be there and that they're all pretty much hating each other with a passion. The soundtrack's pretty damn good fun too. They mix and match live Kiss tracks with random 70s funk beats. The result is that about a third of this film is fast-paced, hard-rocking beats that are brilliant and wonderfully timed, while the other 2/3 are totally unsuited to the situation and really make the band look like they're in an episode of Starsky and Hutch, rather than being the superpowered gods of rock and roll. As I briefly mentioned earlier on, there's a sequence in which Kiss super bounce into a restricted area of the park, only to encounter a large group of robotic wolfmen. And as ludicrous as that is in and of itself, to see scenes of Kiss fighting wolves married up to a funkadelic backing track was just too much for me. The film had at that point fully derailed, and I realised it was just not coming back. The editing is about as good as a Kiss made-for-TV movie can be. Again, there's a sharp clunk in quality between the heavily planned music video sequences when compared to the plot-developing bits. The live and planned bits are tight, to the point and precise. They look awesome. They've been polished to within an inch of their life and they look great for it. Seriously, no complaints from me in that regard. The plot developing sections are still relatively tight and I didn't notice anything out of place, but you can only edit as well as the footage you're provided, and in this case it did seem to me rather like they didn't have a lot to work with in post. It's by no means bad, I just think with a bit more B-roll and maybe a few close-ups they could have made these bits look a lot better than they ended up looking. Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park has had a difficult release history, to say the least. It was first broadcast in 1978 as NBC's Saturday Night at the Movies for October 28th. It would later receive a US VHS release before finding its way over to the UK on VHS 10 years later in 1988. And since then, it's pretty much never been seen again since. The US allegedly has a DVD release that was released sometime around 2006, but I can't find any information other than an Amazon listing. There are a couple of reviews as well, dotted around, and a mock-up DVD cover, but considering that the band hates this movie, it's very unlikely to get a Blu-ray release anytime soon. As it stands, my VHS copy isn't the best in the world. There's intermittent sound issues and the occasional picture wobble that just really didn't help show this film in the best light. All I can say is that I hope Kiss either reassess this thing, or at least the band run low enough on funds that they feel the need to reissue this, because as far as the VHS version goes, this is the only way to watch it legally in the UK, and I'd love to get my hands on a Blu-ray copy of this. All in all, Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park is not a good movie. It has so much working against it, predominantly due both to chasing a younger audience and making sacrifices over the film's more violent or grand sections. It should have been a massive Scooby-Doo-esque Marvel movie, but because of its watering down, it loses its way quite drastically, and it's because of this that I totally loved this thing. I've never seen anything like it. It's like being hit over the head with a lead pipe, and while you're concussed, someone keeps flicking between Cartoon Network and MTV. It was just a big, stupid, plain wrong film, and I loved every minute of it. All I can say is copies of this movie aren't that easy to come by, but this film is available in full, at least at the time of uploading, on YouTube. Don't waste a second longer. If you haven't seen this film, go and see this film. I guarantee you'll never have seen anything quite like it.